Yes, ma'am has also joined. Shall we start then?
Madam, it's 4:57. Still, we need to
Yeah.
wait
So
for
we
three
will start
minutes.
at
Yes.
5 o'clock then.
Sharp 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
we should start.
Okay, okay, sir. Sir, shall we start now, sir? It is 5 o'clock.
Madam, can we start?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Principal,
Ma'am,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
your
you can start.
permission?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good evening and warm welcome to our guest, Dr. Kiran Shandelia, and to all the participants from different parts of India. Gathered on this platform for national webinar, Mind Your Mind in COVID-19 Times, organized by MCOM e-commerce of our esteemed college. Our institution, Thakur College of Science and Commerce, was established by Thakur Educational Trust in the year 1992 and has grown in leaps and bounds since then. Today, we boast of student strength of approximate 14,000 and variety of courses. In its journey through all this year, it has gathered many accolades, and recently we are being awarded Best College 1819 from the University of Mumbai. Coming to our topic, we are all aware that we are in the middle of a pandemic which has brought the world to a standstill. It has made millions and millions of people jobless, uncertain about their future. It has put economies under great depression. This pandemic has also created havoc in life of students. With uncertainty looming large about their exam, their admission, they can't uh, help themselves but get drowned into negativity, anxiety, and stress. Episodes of people living in isolation and in quarantine or staying locked in home for extended period of time has led to severe psychological distress, anger, and depression. To deal with this pandemic so immense and profound, we need to inculcate a sense of collective responsibility. We need to be mindful of our thoughts. It is rightly said that mental health is not a destination, but a process. It is about how you drive and not about where you are going. So while doing the process of our journey, let's keep our hope positive for a better and healthier future and hear from our very distinguished guest, Dr. Kiran Shandelia, as to how we can train our mind to cope with this stress better. But before I invite her for the lecture, I would like our principal ma'am, Dr. Mrs. Chaitali Chakravarti, who is a constant pillar of support for all the activities that we do, to share some motivating words. So, ma'am, please.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Rakhi has arranged a app program at this moment because in India, psychology is taken as a last chance to understand. But I believe that it's the first thing which requires to be taken up, because if mind is all set, the whole body gets tuned to it. If the mind gets spoiled, whatever you eat, whatever you do, whatever you try to get, it doesn't come exactly. So I'm very sure Kiran ma'am's lecture will give is the app lecture at this moment, particularly not only for the students, I'll tell you, even for the teachers, because at home also we have the family together. We all are meeting our colleagues almost every day. Still there is emptiness in our mind. Somewhere we feel that we are lost. The world has come to a standstill. But that isn't, it is not the actual scenario. The world is still going and is still moving well ahead. So I'm sure ma'am will put some highlight to this, to how to keep our mind occupied, how to take it in the positive direction in this very crucial time of COVID-19. Thank you, ma'am, and I welcome you on behalf of the institution for this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, I will invite our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Santosh Singh, who is relentlessly taking effort to bring that quality consciousness in us. Sir, please, a few words.
Thank you so much, Rakhi ma'am. Good evening, all of you. As we know, education system is changing because of this COVID-19. So we have to also change. Now there is a lot of self-service based application which is coming into the market, and there is a constant transformation required into the system. On behalf of Thakur College of Science and Commerce and as a IQAC coordinator, I welcome all the participants here for this session. And IQAC of Thakur College of Science and Commerce, we have taken a lot of initiative under the able guidelines of Principal Madam. We arrange a various skill and talent enhancement program. We have arranged a various program of environmental related issues, women empowerment, and community-based services. A lot of certificate as well as value-added courses also we are conducting on behalf of IQAC as well as collaborating with various departments. Now this topic here, taking care of mental health during COVID-19, this is much more relevance for everyone. So either it is a teacher or maybe people from research, people from industry, or maybe anyone here or a student, it is very, very important here. Because now here there is a lot of discussion which is happening, what is going to happen on our personal finance or unemployment or various index level or agriculture sector or technology related sector. So each and everything index is sometime up or sometime down. So there is a lot of uncertainty which is happening into the market here. Now here even a work from home is not where we can say it is a stress free. This is also very, very stressful. We talk about the technical word. I am from a technology department, so technical word deadline. So even though here I expect some relevance with the Kiran ma'am here, why it is deadline? Why not it is a lifeline when we say about any submission of the last date? So this is also an integral part with our system. I'm very much sure here, session speaker, Madam Kiran will highlight all the issues, and each and everyone, all the participants for this session will have some fruitful outcomes. So once again, I welcome Madam on behalf of Thakur College of Science and Commerce, on behalf of IQAC, and I welcome all the participant, college faculty, researcher, student, or people from my industry for this particular session. And I'm very much sure you will have a fruitful outcome for this session. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. So I'll take this honor and privilege to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Kiran Shandilya. She is MBBS, MD in psychiatry, DPM, as well as gold medalist. She is a psychiatrist, psychotherapist, neuropsychiatrist for 16 long years. Besides being a dedicated psychiatrist, she is deeply interested in yoga, and she's working in a very unique field, that is yoga philosophy, and is looking for a common ground between psychiatry and yoga. Her continuous endeavor towards supporting mental and emotional growth of children and teenagers are also worth mentioning. So taking no more time, I would like to invite Dr. Kiran to address us and help us to understand our mind better.
Thank you so much, Rakhi. We've been interacting on WhatsApp. It's nice to put a face to you. And thanks a lot to Thakur College for giving me this opportunity of talking. I think this is a very, very pertinent topic in today's time, and world over, we among psychiatrists groups are discussing about increase in mental health conditions in this current time. Just give me a moment till I share my screen. And just 1 minute. Yeah. So I'm going to be talking about chaos or stress in times of COVID. COVID is a very, very unique situation. My in-laws today are close to 80, and they are saying we have seen the partition and we have seen independence and we've seen 2 wars, 3 wars. We have not seen a situation like this. So this is something that humanity wasn't aware how to deal with. We've always been very action oriented. If this happens, this is what we need to do. If this happens, this is what we need to do. What happens when all you need to do is nothing? I think as humanity, we're not used to that. So just 1 minute. I don't know why this is not working. Yeah. So COVID and the lockdown, both the COVID and the lockdown have imposed completely new challenges that were unknown before. And we had no idea how to deal with it. Stress world over has been increasing. The number of suicides have increased, the number of depressive cases. We're seeing a mounting rise in anxiety in the pandemic. So just like you have COVID cases increasing every day, I think there's a tsunami of the mental health disorders that is going to come up at the end of this. And also everything else that has become on a standstill. I think when it comes back to life, what exactly will happen? So before we understand how to deal with COVID, let us understand what exactly is stress. Stress is a concept we have borrowed from physics. So if on a balancing scale, we put 2 aspects. One is the demands on a system. It could be an individual, it could be an institution, it could be a nation. So we put various demands on a person. And on the other scale, we put coping capacity or capacity of an individual to deal with those demands. If the demands enhance or are much more than the present coping capacity, the system is said to be under stress. Even tension, the word we very commonly used, has been borrowed from the concept of physics. If you remember, there was a spring, and at the end of the spring, there was a weight. We said that the spring was in tension. So very similarly, it seems like there's a load put on us that we currently are unable to deliver. So let us see what exactly happens. So stress is a state of psychological and physical tension produced when the individual perceives that they are unable to cope with the demands imposed by a stressor. And the consequent state of tension can be adaptive. Stress very often is adaptive, and sometimes it is maladaptive. So what are these stressors? These stressors can come in various ways. We can have physical stressors like health-related stressors, illnesses, injuries. We can have emotional stressors like relationship breakdown. We can have stress to a law system. We can have major financial stressors. Currently, we have stress in terms of skill. I think most of us are not skilled at handling so much online demands that we have currently. So expectations, demands, our own fears, angers, they all add to the stressor or the demand that we impose on our system. So corona is a very, very unique stressor. One is that our own system has no memory of dealing with something similar. For example, when we have dealt with exams from childhood, we have faced exams. We know what to expect. We know what is the outcome. We know what part of the exam is predictable, how much we need to study, and we also know what part is unpredictable. Then corona is a unique stressor because it imposes a lockdown. So I'm going to show to you that how our body responds to a stressor and how lockdown is exactly something that will curb the body's reaction. Very frankly, you and I can do very little about this. Probably people who are frontline healthcare workers like anesthetists, intensivists, or people who are policy makers, lawmakers, they are probably people who can do something about it, but really very little can be done about it. We just have to wait this thing out. The entire environment has become very negative. You see news floating around you, you see people talking about this, WhatsApp, the political environment, the geopolitical environment is so negative. So, and everything is unpredictable because in any other kind of stressor, let us say an exam kind of a stressor, we have some predictability. We know what the course is, we know how much time we have, we know how we can manage our own time. But here the environment is so unpredictable that we don't know what to expect next. So what happens when we face an acute stress? The minute we get news of something which is very stressful, our body goes into a state of alarm or a shock. And under that shock, what is produced is adrenaline. Adrenaline is a hormone that increases blood flow to our muscles. Our pupils dilate. We see the most dangerous signals first. Our mind is tuned to look at what is important. We also face emotional responses such as anger, or we face emotional responses such as a lot of fear or anxiety. The idea is that this stress needs to be responded to immediately, which means we either fight the situation or we run away from the situation. So imagine if I am an old, let's go back about 100 years back, and I was walking in a jungle and suddenly I saw a snake hanging down. I can have two responses. I can run away from the snake, or I can put the snake and pull it out. There will be no chance here to strategize. So alarm is a reaction, or acute stress is a reaction that sets in when the case of survival is important. And for centuries, this has worked. What is happening now, right now, is during this time of COVID, our body has gone into a state of alarm. We are feeling that our muscles are tense. Some of us are getting tension headaches. Some of us are getting neck pains. Okay. We are feeling anxiety. Even anger, frustration is on the rise. And there is practically no response here. We are not allowed to do a response. Everything is under lockdown. You can't even move. You can't even talk to somebody. So our body is in a very confused state, because what has worked for it for hundreds of years, for millions of years, what has worked beautifully as a life-saving mechanism, suddenly is outdated. It doesn't know how to react to this situation. Okay. Let's look at what happens when the stress becomes chronic. Now, COVID is not a new thing. It was probably new in March. But today we are in the end of, almost the end of May. We have faced 45 days of lockdown. And it's become almost chronic stress. So we've been fighting it. After a while, when the body recognizes, okay, this is not a life-threatening situation, but it's still challenging, the body releases something called cortisol. What cortisol does is it increases our blood glucose. So let us say you're going through a famine. There is no food. The body will have enough energy to deal with the food. What cortisol does is it increases our blood pressure. So let us say you're going to get dehydrated, you're traveling long distances, it'll help you. It reduces our immunity, so we will not have an allergic reaction to new things. So in the past, people would So in the past, what were our stressors? Our stressors were war, our stressors were poverty, our stressors were famines. Okay. And for these kind of stressors, cortisol was a life-saving response that our body had developed. However, if cortisol continues being secreted in the body at a much higher level than what is normal, what it results is in a high blood pressure, diabetes, problems in focusing, in memory, attention. We can also have heart diseases. We can have a suppressed immune system. And that is the last thing that we require today in today's COVID environment. We need to enhance our immunity. And what our time tested mechanism of dealing with chronic stress is doing is that it is suppressing our immunity. It is worsening our digestion. So some of us are actually losing our appetite, or our digestion has gone bad during this time of stress. It worsens our sleep. Okay, so again, a mechanism that was life saving for centuries has suddenly something which is so outdated, and the body is confused. It doesn't know how to react to the stressor. Finally, what happens is that some of us will reach a stage of exhaustion. We are putting up a response, our body, our brains is putting up a response to deal with an unknown stressor. It doesn't know how to deal with it. It's still trying to. And there's going to be a point of breakdown. And what will the breakdown entail? The breakdown will have some emotional symptoms. Emotional symptoms, as in we can break down crying, we can be depressed. Emotional symptoms, as in we can get very angry or frustrated. It can have effect on our body. We can have a lot of dull aches and pains. It can lower our immunity. We can feel very fatigued and tired. It can also affect our thinking. So we may not be thinking straight, or we may be overreactive in our thinking. Or we may want to focus on our studies and not being able to do that. It may affect our memory. It may affect our sleep cycles. It may affect our behavior, where people do negative behaviors like maybe violence or hitting others or resorting to drug abuse. So these behaviors can get affected. So basically, what has happened is that with the advent of new age, our stressors have changed. And especially with COVID, the kind of stressor has completely changed. Our time tested responses are now outdated. So basically, our mind and body are completely out of sync. And if we wait for evolution, evolution takes centuries. So we can't wait for evolution to happen. What is happening is that scientists across the world are researching, and they are trying to create an evolution in terms of viral DNA, identifying, they're doing research in terms of medication. This is great, but all this is external work. This is work that you're doing outside your body, outside your mind. Like we work on evolution outside, I think it becomes our responsibility to work on evolution inside. Man has come from the days of amoeba to the current man. All this evolution has happened, and we've completely depended on nature. But now we probably need not depend on nature. We can take cues from the current environment and start working on ourselves and turn the stressor around. Let it have a positive outcome in our own lives. Let's look at corona with a this thing in disguise, the blessing in disguise. But before I go that, let's look at some of the common problems that people are having in terms of mental health conditions when they are faced with this corona outbreak. One very common thing is called illness anxiety disorder. So very frequently, I get calls from patients saying that we are very worried if we are okay, and we have got our tests done, but what if we can get infected again? And I'm constantly Google searching on every illness. What if my parents get ill? What if my friends get ill? I'm so worried about falling sick. I can't think of anything else. Okay. They have visited multiple doctors, and they have gotten multiple investigations done. But in spite of whatever the doctor's trying to say, that see, you're okay, there's nothing to worry about, it's minor cough, there's minor throat irritation, there is nothing, you do not have COVID, They're constantly worrying that, oh my God, what if something happens to me? They sometimes go into a state of panic. And in panic, they may have extreme sensation of anxiety where they actually feel that I'm feeling breathless or something, I may actually die or something serious will happen to me. Such people report to the hospital middle of the night only to know that all their symptoms are completely normal. Okay, this thing is called illness anxiety disorder, where you're constantly fretting and worrying that you may have an illness, or a close person, maybe your child or parent or somebody may have an illness. Okay, and minor symptoms are taken as horrible diseases, as life-threatening conditions. They can't think of a small thing. थोड़ा सा chest pain होगा, they will not think of gas, they will think heart attack तो नहीं हो रहा है. थोड़ा सा tingling numbness, हम लोग एक पाँव के ऊपर पाँव रख के बैठते हैं, we feel a sensation of tingling in our body. They will feel, oh my God, am I in a stroke? So their bodies and minds overreact to something like this. These are perfectly intelligent people who will probably know more than the doctors because of the amount of research they've been doing on Google on the disease. So they're like walking, talking encyclopedias on the disease. Okay. What we also see very commonly nowadays is a rise in OCD. OCD is also called obsessive compulsive disorder. People tend to have obsessive thoughts, obsessive fears or doubts. And in the current situation, there's an obsessive fear of contamination, that something I might touch may have a germ in it. Okay, I may touch a person, I may touch a door handle that may have a germ in it. I need to keep washing my hands. There are people where the skins have started coming out because of continuous hand washing. Okay, they're spending hours just cleaning because they're so scared that they may be infecting people. So I can share with you that I've been going to the hospital quite regularly. I go to my clinic quite regularly, and I've been seeing patients very regularly. I'm a young, healthy adult, which means that my chances of infection or a serious infection are very low. In spite of being at high risk group, me and my staff, none of us have contacted COVID. So we need not be that mortally afraid of what we are doing. And specifically, we need not get into a compulsive behavior where people wash their hands once and then they feel, oh my God, what if I haven't waited for 20 seconds? Maybe I need to do it again. What if after washing the hands, I touched my nose and I hadn't washed my face? Probably I need to wash my face again and again, wash my hands. Okay, what if my clothes, my dupatta inadvertently touched some door handle? Maybe I need to throw this. Okay, so people with obsessive compulsive disorders have fears in their mind. There are other kinds of OCD also, but what we are seeing commonly resurfacing is this kind of an OCD where people are getting into compulsive hand washing and fear that they would have been contaminated or they will give the contamination to another person. What we are having world across is rebellion and anger. So people are willing to take any amount of risks, and they're saying just break the lockdown. I'm not just talking about very poor people who are dying out of starvation or people who are very confused. I'm talking about people in well-to-do countries who are not following laws, who are purposely breaking laws. I have a patient of mine who's currently studying in London. And I was asking him कि वो तो वहाँ पे तो बहुत कुछ ज़्यादा infection है. What is the situation there? And he said, Madam, कोई mask नहीं पहनता है. मैंने mask पहना है, and people will make fun of me if I'm in a bus. There will be a group of students who will come and cough at my face because they're making fun of me wearing a mask. He says, I went to a supermarket. There were about 100 people in the supermarket, and nobody practically was wearing a mask except me. Everybody was looking down at me as if I'm the one who's infected and I'm going to give everybody else the infection. Okay. And I was just discussing with him that yaar, हमारे देश के गरीब अनपढ़ लोग are far better than these really so-called pseudo-educated people. Because our people are listening, they are following laws. However difficult it is for them, they are at least doing it. World across, I've spoken to people from US, I've spoken to people. There are people visiting pubs, for example. pubs are not closed. I'm not talking about, work is shut down. So the only lockdown that they have is that the work is shut down, the universities are shut down, and they are studying from home. But there is no lockdown otherwise. They are meeting in cafes, they are dancing, they are drinking. So practically everything else is happening. And they are completely, in spite of that, they're going out and rebelling. Okay, there was also this rebelliousness towards doctors, where people would cough at the faces of doctors or spit at the faces of doctors, or completely attack doctors who would go and test them. So this kind of a rebellion was also happening. Sometimes what happens is that when you're in a lockdown and your frustration has built up and people are prone to anger and there's no outlet, people resort to domestic violence. So we are seeing an increased number of cases of domestic violence. Domestic violence, the most common form is man beats up woman, but that's not the only kind of domestic violence. There is also domestic violence where elderly people are being beaten up. There is also domestic violence where young children, by young children I mean adolescents or teenagers or young youthful people, are raising hands, intimidating, shouting, verbally abusing their parents or other members of the family, where one elder sibling is bullying a younger sibling to do things. So basically, what it is showing is that some of us are not able. Anger is also a mechanism where you show that I'm not able to handle the situation. Some people will break down crying, and some people become intensely angry. Also, so there are a lot of women who actually call us and say that I think I'm safer outside, and I think I'm willing to risk COVID than risk being beaten up by my husband, because my home is not a safe environment. So a place that should become a sanctum, a place that should be a safe haven, actually becomes a place where everybody's so scared. So especially if you have one such person in the family, if you have one person who resorts to violence every now and violence could be intimidation, violence could be throwing things like phones or breaking things. It need not always be practically hitting people. Okay, sometime in extreme violence, people also hit themselves, bang their, but the entire environment becomes very, very emotionally charged and everybody is very worked up in the situation. We're seeing a lot of irresponsible behavior. Okay, one thing I'm personally very happy about is this law about spitting and law about gutka, because I think in having 6 months of done this, I'm hoping that our country will get over a social problem that has been there in the country for ages now, you know. So I'm actually grateful to the government that they've introduced this law. I remember going in an auto and telling the auto wala कि भैया आप थूकते हो तो टीबी फैलता है, आपको पता है टीबी फैलता है, but they were like नहीं नहीं नहीं, तो मतलब they don't have a concept कि थूके बिना रहेंगे कैसे, तो इसका क्या करें, हम अंदर ले लें क्या, you know. So but irresponsible behavior is also rebellion, is also carelessness. So while fear on one place is very, very bad, but on the other hand, absolute carelessness is also not warranted. I see a lot of young men, about 3 of them riding on a bike. I live in Aksa, so it's a very deserted place, and they come for their bike rides here, and probably not much police is deployed here, so they can break away from police shackles. But I really wonder, why are they doing it? Or who are they trying to risk? Probably if they get infected, they're not at high risk. But what happens to their parents, or what happens to their grandparents? What happens to what they get home? And are they not realizing that the world is suffering because of a few people who are being irresponsible? Okay, at some level. Of course, not everybody who's got the disease is irresponsible. Okay, so what we also have is a barrage of information. We have information, online information, left, right, and center. We have all kinds of news, most of it fake. Most of it fake. See, in India, we have about 3,000 deaths today because of COVID. But I have seen information about Sion Hospital where people are lying close to dead bodies, and they have shot videos, and they've been circulating. So I actually called up a friend in Sion Hospitals asking that, is this what is happening? I've never seen something like this. And she said, nahi, 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 wo fake hai, wo mere paas bhi aaya hai. So a lot of fake news, fake things are coming. There's a very bright young person I met yesterday. He's doing an engineering course, third year engineering, and he's actually created an app that sifts through what is fake news and what is real news. And the government of India has taken him up on this and said, oh, this is great, and we want you to share this with us. So I think we have to be very careful about news mongering. What we're also doing is we're obsessively running the same thought in our minds. News is something on a normal day we would read maybe once in the morning, we just go through the newspaper, or once in the evening. But here we are constantly obsessing about news. This is something that we need to stop doing. What happens to patients who are infected, who realize that, oh my God, I may actually have an infection? One of the negatives is that they are not reporting. I don't know, what are they afraid of? They are afraid of how the society will respond to them. Are they very scared of a negative outcome? Okay, they are worrying about the family. They're probably very guilty, but what I notice is that they're most afraid of facing stigma from the world. This is a person who's ill. And what the government of India is doing is that they're giving you free treatment. In fact, most of the treatment facilities have very good facilities, much better than what most government hospitals would offer, normally speaking. There are doctors around the clock. Every other disease is being ignored just to take care of this one disease. If you have the disease, please go and report to somebody. If there are symptoms, please get yourself tested. There is no shame in having a disease. And this is what I wanted to talk to others, that viruses don't discriminate, and we should not. We should not discriminate between people. A sick person is a sick person. He deserves sympathy. He deserves care or concern. Most people, about 98% of the people in the world today, have a mild sickness. Just about 2% people have a severe sickness requiring a ventilator or something like this. The death rate is 3.5%. We don't have to be so scared of the disease. And we don't have to be so scared of touching the people. I've seen videos floating around saying that ye chhut ki bimari hai, using words that we've left before. This was something that was used for leprosy in a very, very derogatory way. Why do we again have to go back to those days where people were left out of the villages, people were abandoned? Is our fear, haven't we as humanity grown to forget our fears and take care of others? Okay, teenagers today, I think boredom and social isolation is their biggest challenge. As a teenager, the need to connect to people, for a youth to connect to other youngsters and talk to them is very high. And this is a very, very strange situation because everybody is isolated. And also there is little work to be done, and probably the work that we're doing at homes, like cooking, cleaning, little studies, very monotonous. It is not giving us any room for discussion. So, for example, one of the things that I suggested to my children's class teacher is that maybe after your Zoom lecture, you should have 10 minutes of free student time where students can just interact with them saying hello, hi. And thankfully, the students my children are in class 5, so they can do that. So they're not scared of cyberbullying and bad text messages on chat, which maybe college teachers are scared of. But social isolation is also something. What college also does is that it provides a platform for meeting people, for interacting. I still think that the friends that I've made in college are never after that I have made the same kind of friends, because college was one place that really allowed that kind of space and interaction. And suddenly, with the breakdown of that university, of that space where you could meet, where you could discuss, we would have endless discussions on things that we were not involved with. And all of us believed at one point of time that we could change the world. I wish we had the same belief now. I love the youth for this, that they actually believe that they can change the world. And I'm sure they can if they put in their effort. Depression is rising. So a lot of people have, so what exactly is depression? It's a pervasive sad mood where they don't feel like getting up, they don't enjoy anything, they don't want to do anything. They may also have suicidal thoughts. Sometimes they break down crying. Depression is actually a medical problem, and those of you who are facing depression probably need to walk up to a doctor and seek help. Okay, let us not ignore depression. Suicides have been rising in this era of the pandemic. Okay, so world across, alcoholism, cannabis abuse, all drug abuse have risen. It is only India where the lockdown is so strict on drugs and alcohol that actually the alcohol use has gone down. We are seeing an increase in drug withdrawals because suddenly drugs are not available. We saw the situation where the shops were opened for 2 days, and people who would not get up to even buy rations at home were all in line since 7 in the morning waiting for the alcohol shop to be open. People who are starving to death were still wanting to drink. So there is a problem with people who've been smoking also, because smoking, a lot of students here I know have been using pot and cannabis and weed. So suddenly weed has become very expensive or not available. And some of them may be also facing some kind of withdrawal because they're not able to get out of the house and buy a cigarette. Or this also enhances irritability in people or disturbs their sleep patterns. There's a lot of hoarding behavior that we are seeing, that people are emptying shops' shelves of things that they don't require. And this is happening more outside of India. I think in India, like I said, we are probably poor, we are probably illiterate, but our common sense and our community sense is a lot more than these so-called Western developed nations. They seem to be underdeveloped mentally. I need to put this point across, because hoarding behaviors are so common outside. I don't know what those people are so scared about. Even in India, we're seeing this amongst people who have more money, who have more capacity. They are the ones who are hoarding. Then ones who actually have less money and they should be scared what will happen. They're okay. They're okay with this unpredictability. It shows our insecurity. Okay. Now I'm coming to this point that we are facing a unique stressor. World over, mental health conditions are rising. Evolution is something that is going to take time. Our bodies are putting up a response to the stressor, which is an outdated response. What are we supposed to do? Every stress is not bad. इंसान की फितरत है कि वो स्ट्रेस पालता है. हमारे पास एक डिग्री आती है, we want another degree. जैसे ही जॉब नहीं लगा, we want a housing loan. एक घर आया, we want a second house. एक girlfriend आई, we want another girlfriend. Okay, so we are constantly inviting stress because somewhere growth happens because of stress. If we were very happy and content like a dog with sleeping with 16 hours a day, being patted and given a meal, we probably would have remained chimpanzees by now. Okay, but a lot of growth has happened in humanity because we've taken one stress after the other and turned it around. The key thing about stress is our reaction to it. So how we deal with our stressor can actually kill us, or it can help us grow. And this, I want to emphasize, is the turning point. We are facing a unique stressor. All of us are together in it. We're all feeling a sense of camaraderie because everybody is facing the same problem. Okay. Distress is when my stress response is negative and I face negative consequences. It could be physical consequences that like loss of immunity or blood pressure, or it could be negative emotional consequences like depression. Eustress is when I come out stronger out of this entire stressful event and I'm able to turn this thing around. adapt, and grow. Okay. So what we come to a new term called resilience. Resilience, again, a term taken from physics, but what we mean in psychology is our ability to recover from and adjust easily to any kind of change. So we are adapting to a new change in our life. Okay. And really, if there was no suffering in life, suffering is so important because it helps us grow. I think none of us can continuously party. There is no fun in having a holiday without having worked very hard for an exam. Whether, the exam holiday, the holiday that you have post an exam has a very special meaning. Unlike today's holiday, where we are all on holiday, but we are not really enjoying ourselves. We are looking forward to going back to work. Okay. So, how do we become more resilient in ourselves to deal with the current stressor and also to deal with stressors that are going to come in future? It could be a financial stressor, it could be a stressor about what will happen next in life, it could be related to academics, jobs, whatever, relationships. How do we deal with it? And how do we build up our resilience? Let's look at various human dimensions. We have a physical body. We have our brains, we have our intellect, we have our emotions. We're also not isolated like islands. We are connected to other people. So people around us affect us and we affect them. So we have an interpersonal space. Not only are we connected to people, we are also connected to society at large. The actions that we take affect the society. The actions that the society takes affects us. So we have a social presence. We also are very spiritual beings because we all somehow want to connect to a higher source and we believe in things. All this unpredictability, etc., will not make sense if we don't have faith or we don't have hope. And these are all very spiritual emotions. So in Hindi and Sanskrit, there's a very beautiful word called swasthya. What does swasthya mean? Swasthya just doesn't mean health. It means swa and sthit, yani apne andar sthit, a person who's complete within himself. That is such a beautiful definition. WHO definition of health is the total physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being, and not just the absence of disease. So they have borrowed from this definition of swasthya in Sanskrit. So I think what I'm going to talk about is how do we improve our overall health and our well-being. Remember that when a fight happens, if you notice soldiers, they are practicing throughout their lives for the one fight that they may face in their life. So they are constantly preparing. So when we prepare for stress, it is a daily activity. When we enhance our resilience, it's a daily activity. You don't enhance your resilience when you're going to face a stress. This is a very, very important key point. So it is how we structure our day throughout our life that makes us prepared to deal with the stress. Imagine if you have to run a marathon 6 months down the line, you need to start running today. You can't on the day of the marathon decide that I'm going to run a marathon. Of course, you'll break your bones, you'll collapse out of breathlessness, out of dehydration, whatever, because your system is not ready to handle it. So what we are essentially doing is that every aspect of our being, we are enhancing our stamina, we're enhancing our endurance, we are enhancing our capacity so that if tomorrow we are faced with a stress, we'll be able to deal with it. What is important is also that all these dimensions are interdependent, which means that if one dimension becomes weak, but we have other dimensions which are strong, we're able to handle our stress. So let us assume that somebody has a severe illness today, but this person is emotionally strong. He's very aware of what are the tests to be done, which doctors to be, so intellectually he's very strong. He has a very good social support system. He's financially comfortable. Okay. He spiritually feels connected to a higher power. For this person to fight the severe illness is a lot easier than somebody who doesn't have these other capacities. Let us assume somebody is going through a breakup, so is in an emotionally weak space, but is physically healthy, is doing well in their academics, is has a good set of friends to help them, okay, has a lot of self belief in himself and has faith in destiny, future, in a higher power. Now this person again is able to overcome the breakup versus somebody who does not have these other dimensions that are strong. So what is important is that we don't become focused that all I have to do is to face an exam, so I focus on intellectual development and not, and let's leave the rest out. Remember, only if we grow as complete person, we're able to deal with the stress. What COVID has also taught us, that stress is not just physical. This is not just a disease. It is helping us in multiple ways. It is affecting, not helping us, affecting us in multiple ways. It's affecting us financially. It's affecting us mentally. Even though it hasn't happened to us, it is affecting us mentally. It is bringing a strain in our relationships, or on the contrary, it is fostering relationships between people, again depending on how you change the stressor around. So the first thing, let's come to physical health. These are basics we have learned in our nursery schools. Physical health, important aspects are exercise, diet, and sleep. I will go with the last point, sleep. Sleep disturbances are very high in youth today. And we have one thing to blame, which is the mobile phone. If your brain needs to switch off and you're constantly stimulating it, you're watching a film, you're chatting with your friends, you're surfing the net, you may be even studying on the phone, but you're constantly giving it something to think about. How is the brain going to switch off? Sleep is one thing which is responsible for immunity. Okay? Sleep deprivation lowers immunity drastically. We have something called T4 helper cells in our body that help fight viral infections. They say that the T4 cells go down by 1/4 if you have 4 days of sleep deprivation. Okay, that's the amount, that's the way our body reacts to. Accident proneness is more, people fall ill very often. So one thing that I want to emphasize upon is a strict sleep hygiene. The thing about sleep hygiene is that 1 hour prior to sleep time, no screens. We can read a light novel, we can listen to music, we can relax with family, bond with family, but no screens an hour prior to sleeping. Okay, this is self-discipline. We are talking about our health. We are not talking about something that our parents or teachers are imposing on us. Okay, we have to have a consistent sleep timing. There is something called a glymphatic system of the brain. A lot of clearance of things happens when we are asleep, especially the night sleep. So do you know why the companies pay you more for night working than for morning working? Because they realize that there's a lot of health hazard. And so that you don't sue them back, telling them that, oh, because you caused this health damage because I was doing night work, they're actually saying that their contract says that we are paying you more for night work than for morning work. And the health hazard largely happens because even if you sleep in the morning, the night sleep is not compensated. And what starts getting affected is our concentration and memory. Diet is also something that is essentially important. We all know what a healthy diet is. While I'm talking about diet, I want to address fad diets here. A lot of women and men want to lose weight. They want to lose weight at any cost. They want to lose weight at the cost of health. So they will get into a fruit only diet, no diet, keto diet. All these have no health benefits. Please have regular food. Your brain requires carbohydrate. I do not believe in these kind of fad diets as a doctor. I believe that one has to follow a healthy diet, and starvation is also something that reduces our immunity. Exercise is known to have both mental benefits and physical benefits, especially immunity enhancement. In today's day and time, we have lovely classes on Zoom. It could be Zumba classes, yoga classes. We have a lot of apps that help us exercise. So although we are in a lockdown, we can decide on an exercise schedule for ourselves. Yoga is a very balanced form of exercise. It talks about physical exercise. It also talks about breathing exercises that help our energy system of the body. And it has certain relaxation exercises that actually help us calm down and help our mind calm down. So it is a practice of, we say, asana, pranayam, and dhyan So there are practices which are physical, there are practices which are related to our energy system like pranayam, and dhyan, which is related to our mind. It's a very complete form, but any form of exercise or sport is great. Now we come to a very important aspect. We're all students here. The teachers are also students here. So we are talking about intellectual. What is the importance of reading? And when I say reading, I mean anything, not just your text, but even apart from your text. Okay. There have been studies that reading actually increases lifespan. Reading is a mental discipline that actually enhances, it's exercise for the brain. So you enhance your memory and concentration. So even people who read novels may have a great concentration and memory compared to those who never read. It is known to reduce stress and anxiety. Reading enhances sleep quality. So if you're not reading a thriller novel, it's only a thriller novel that'll keep you awake through the night. But otherwise, reading will enhance your quality of sleep. So this can be one activity that you can do prior to sleeping to help you switch off. It enhances creative thought. You know, when we are reading, we are going through a vicarious life. So when I'm reading, I'm living the life of a hero. If the hero is a laborer, I know how a laborer feels. If the hero is a king, I will know exactly how a king feels. If the hero is a sports person, I will know what challenges he has. So as a result, reading enhances empathy. We understand other people. Growth in this world happens to people who are more emotionally evolved. After a point of time, I have a lot of these senior people who are IIT, IIM graduates who come to me and say that, you know, we are very technically sound and we know everything, but we are not getting promoted. We are not getting promoted because somehow we are not so connected to people around us. We don't have the leadership qualities. We don't have and we are not seen as smart people. Other people are seen as smarter, whereas our technical know-how is much more than the others. So after a particular point, growth happens because your empathy and understanding of others is a lot more. It also improves our conversation skills. So we are able to understand and converse on a wide variety of topics because of having read. I'd like to tell you that in all my life, I've lived in very, very small towns. In fact, it's only after my marriage in MD that I've come to a big metropolitan like Bombay. I went alone to Germany for some time. I went alone to Japan. Both places do not speak English. And not once did I feel lost because I had read so much that I felt, oh, I can connect with everything here. I've sort of read about this. I know how this feels. So it also enhances our confidence in a way. It's also time. Lockdown is a time of learning a new skill. A lot of us students here don't know essential life skills. I consider cooking an essential life skill. Organizing, you know, their cupboards, their books, their time is not organized. So just management and organizing is an essential life skill. Probably handling finance is a very, very essential life skill. And my sister lives in Australia, and she was telling me there's a big difference between youth in Australia and youth in India. And I said, what is the difference? And she says they're so self-reliant. They will not just know how to drive, they will know how to change the tires, they will know how to open the bonnet and know what is wrong with the car. She said they can fix up basic electrical appliances, they can do basic carpentry. They know how to live a life on their own. Whereas in India, we're dependent on everybody. One of the things I have learned is how to give myself a haircut. So my hair was becoming really bad. I've given my entire family, my son and husband, a haircut. So this is a new skill that I have learned. And I've realized that it's good enough. I probably can save up on the money that I was spending with the barber. So we can learn up new skills in this time. Let's come to emotional growth. And this is what largely psychologists and psychiatrists talk about. A very important thing about negative emotions is that we need not suppress it. We have to acknowledge. There is no shame in saying that I am finding this situation difficult. Rather than being irritated, okay, and throwing your weight around, it's okay to say, I don't know how to deal with it. I'm feeling tensed. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling very anxious. Acknowledge it, face it. You don't become a weaker person by acknowledging your emotions. It actually requires greater strength and self-awareness to know exactly how you're feeling. And we have to face our pain. Okay. there is something called a locus of control. Do we have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control? An external locus of control essentially means that these people control me, or my destiny is controlled by people outside of me, which means that I'm constantly cribbing about politicians, I'm cribbing about college, I'm cribbing about laws, I'm cribbing about India. I'm constantly cribbing because I can't control anything. An internal locus of control is a greater responsibility, but also greater control and greater independence, where a person says, I control my destiny. So I decide how I spend my time. I decide who I spend my time with. I decide what I spend my time on. What is the quality of work that I do? So having an internal locus of control is helpful in dealing with things rather than all continuously complaining about things that are outside of us. Because anyways, we can't do a thing about politicians, we can't do a thing about COVID, we can't do a thing about financial situation, we can't do a thing about the lockdown. What we can do a thing about is ourselves. So the first shift that we make in emotional change is getting back inside and saying, okay, I control my own life and let me start taking control of it. So things I can control are my actions, my thoughts, my feelings, my effort, my behavior. What I can't control is other people, how they think, how they behave, what they should say and what they should not say. And I think if we stop focusing on other people and start focusing on ourselves, we've made a very great shift. Otherwise, we can be complaint boxes. We can keep complaining on WhatsApp and on various social, Facebook, Instagram about how bad things are, but really not move an inch in our own lives. Here, I would like to share an interesting Saas Bahu story with you. I know a lot of students hate Saas Bahu serials, which is why I've taken this reaction. You know, when you hate something, even then your attention goes up. So there is a Saas who has 4 Bahus, okay? And she calls all her 4 Bahus in this Saas Bahu serial. All of them come decked up in their beautiful saris and makeup. And she says, and she starts shouting at them left, right, and center. And she says that you guys are good for nothing. And in our zamana, we used to do this and we used to do that. And there's nothing that you can do. And she really gives it to them that particular day. So Bahu A locks herself up in the room and starts crying. And you know, she goes like, कोई हमें समझता नहीं, कोई हमसे प्यार नहीं करता, इस घर में कुछ भी करने का फायदा नहीं. Bahu B is of a different kind. She gets more angry. She bangs the door on the face of the sass and says, मैं घर से जा रही हूँ, इतना ही problem है तो आप खुद काम कर दो. Bahu C is like the serial heroine, you know, she's overtly anxious, very eager to do the right thing, very eager to please, but very unhappy. She's so unhappy. All serial heroines are very unhappy. So she's like, दीदी भी गुस्सा है, काम भी पड़ा है, मैं ही कर लेती हूँ, but मैं रोती जाऊंगी. And Bahu D is a normal person who says that, okay, I'll do a little work, I'll speak to my sass and manage my relationships. But basically, she's in control of the situation. She hasn't spoiled her own feelings, she hasn't spoiled her behavior, and she hasn't spoiled her relationship. Now, if the sass ka dantna was an event that caused this entire episode, then definitely the event has a precipitation of the episode. But the event alone cannot have this consequence. अगर खाने में नमक डालेंगे तो नमकीन ही होगा ना, मीठा, कड़वा, खट्टा तो नहीं हो सकता. Similarly, if the event alone was responsible for this consequence, okay, every Bahu would have behaved similarly. But the event individually reacted with the individual and they had their own response. Similarly, COVID is a situation where you have extremely healthy responses. You have people going out of their ways helping others. On one end, you have on the other end people being extremely selfish and hoarding things. You have people becoming violent. So we have a variety of responses because how we have responded to this entire situation. Okay, so we come to a response versus react thing here. When we react to a situation, it's an impulsive, habitual way. We may react with irritation. We may react with fear, anger. Okay? And usually there is trouble, there's doubt, there's problem. When we respond, we take time out. We think out a situation and deliberately, out of self-awareness, we see, okay, what are the things we can change here? Let's see what action we can take. What are the things we need to accept here? Okay? What do I need to tell this person? So whenever you are upset in a situation, my suggestion is buy time. Tell people that I'll get back to you on this. I'm a little disturbed by this. Let me get back to you in 2 hours. Let me get back to you tomorrow. Rather than saying, ये क्या है? आप लोग समझते नहीं हैं. हम ही लोग करते जाएं. Rather than having a barrage of way to important thing is not whether your reaction is justified or not. Okay, it may be a justified reaction. You may be right in saying what you are saying, but how are you saying this? You are capable of being a higher being. Why are you responding like this? Why are you responding like this to important people in your life? Okay, you're responding with anger and frustration and irritation to your own family, to people who actually care for you, who are actually going to live with you through their lives, who will be there for you in times of need. So why the worst part of your behavior to the most important people in your life? Can we choose to respond with a higher self? Okay. I come to a very important point in today's youth is that the media has projected an image of what is ideal. An ideal person looks very good. Only 10% of the people can be exceptionally good looking. Most of us are just about average looking. An average person is very fair, very tall, very slim. They say about 95% women do not match the slimness criteria of what is shown on media. So what is normal is not what is ideal. So maybe we need to shift the bar of what is ideal. Okay. There's a lot of body shaming happening online. People are talking in a cyberspace. People keep discussing other people's looks, other people's bodies, other people's fashion statements. They keep making fun of it. And there's a lot of cyberbullying, and it has a lot of psychological impact on people who are probably not so privileged in terms of their height or complexion or even their weight and things like this. So for ourselves, we need to accept ourselves. And for others, I think we need to focus on qualities that are within their control, like their capacity to study, the capacity to control their anger, their capacity to deal with their own fears, rather than how dark or how fat or how short or how thin a person is. Okay, or how cool or not so cool a person is. So I think this is one behavior that we have to stay away from, especially because a lot of us are socializing on a social platform, and we have to become aware of what we say is going to emotionally affect the other person. Just so there's a concept of laughing with and laughing at. Are we laughing with our friends or are we laughing at our friends? And at what cost of emotionally disturbing them? Is it fair just to sound cool? And is it really a cool thing to do? Then I don't know. Your definition of cool is questionable. Okay. We've come to a situation where there is little that we can do. And we've all been active people. So patience is being tested. We've all learned patience in this situation. Patience is not a passive thing. It's not something where you say that, ठीक है, छोड़ दो. It is not resignation. जाओ अब क्या कर सकते हैं. That's not patience. Patience is active acceptance that, okay, I will go through this time. I will endure this time. I will go through it, knowing that we're all together in this. We're all connected in this. So it is the calm acceptance that things will not happen the way I plan them to happen. And if they don't happen in that way, I'm not going to get disturbed. I'm going to believe that, okay, this also has something good in it. This is a plan. It's my workshop to work on myself. Okay. This is a very important part, which is a small act of kindness. Okay. All of us have internal mental positions. So we can be beggars in our mental position. And by beggars, I don't mean somebody who's financially poor, but somebody who's constantly demanding from the environment. I need this, I need that. I need to be given more respect. I need to be given more authority. Give me more freedom. Give me more things. I need better phones. Okay. So this is a beggar who's constantly begging versus somebody who believes that he's the king and thinks about others. What is a king's attitude? He thinks about others and does things for others. So in your own mindset, decide that whether you want to be a beggar, crib, complain, ask constantly, demand things from your friends, from your parents, from your teachers, and constantly complain that it's not enough, or whether you want to be a king and start taking care of people around you. So I recently met this boy. This boy collects kachara from our building. Okay, he's a 22-year-old boy. He's also just finished his graduation from a night school, and he's working in a hotel. So morning he works in a hotel in a housekeeping thing. Before that, early morning he comes to collect kachara from the building. This boy is feeding 32 people. He is giving them chai and biscuit morning, evening, 32 people. How much salary would this boy have? Okay. But I'm sure that this boy will do very well in life, because look at his attitude. His attitude is not small. He's thinking so big. He's actually feeding 32 people chai, coffee, everything. Okay. And he goes out to police walas, to people on the street, and gives them chai and coffee and biscuits. This is what he can do. There are people, small acts of kindness, just putting water out for birds, giving, there are people who are feeding dogs, there are people who are helping others. I think even talking to somebody, your watchman, he's working in the building from day to night. He's in a lot of these buildings, they have not gone home. Just asking, भैया आपकी फैमिली में कौन कौन है, वो लोग कहाँ रहते हैं, कैसे हैं. It is acknowledging that person, appreciating somebody. Mommy, you do so much work. I never realized there was so much work at home. We always took you for granted. I'm sorry I took you for granted. It's not saying sorry. It is actually acknowledging her, appreciating her. So can we have these small acts of kindness in how we do? Because what we do is not how we make the other people feel, but we grow in ourselves and we start acting from being a king than from being a beggar. So we talk about interpersonal now, our relationships with others. You know, again, like I said, a beggar would say, I don't have a good friend. Nobody really understands me. Okay. I wish I had better teachers. What is the point of being a citizen of India? So we have these kind of statements. Have we tried to become the best friend that we are capable of becoming? Have we tried to become a better parent, a better child, a better student? Okay. Because it's also what we bring into a relationship. A relationship is very dynamic. Let us say if I walk into a room where everybody hates me, but they are acting okay and polite, I immediately know that they hate me here. Okay, on the phone, I know that a person is talking to me with sarcasm or he's talking to me with genuineness. How do I know this? This is beyond body language, because emotions are a fluid thing. They flow from one person to another. And very intense emotions can start boiling and bubbling up. And intense emotions of fear, anxiety, anger can affect everybody else. So, how we manage our emotions towards others is a very important part. And I think what we are contributing to the relationship is important. So, help others grow, help others appreciate, importantly without an agenda. I keep hearing teenagers saying that मैंने इतना किया लोगों के लिए और मेरा टाइम आया तो किसी ने मेरी हेल्प नहीं की. Agreed, but you become a better person. It's okay. Life will pay you back in some form or the other. Okay, but that cannot be reason enough not to trust people or not to do deeds of kindness. We are in a situation where there are things we can't control. And this is where a connect with a higher power. A higher power could be God, could be our own inner self, our conscience, our spirit, soul, whatever you call it. Could be a higher source of energy. Okay. So I don't want to define what a higher power is. But if we connect to it, it gives us a lot of strength. It gives us hope, faith to tide through difficult times. This connection with a higher power is a daily event. You know, the power also responds to you if आपका अच्छा रिश्ता हो. अगर आप सिर्फ जरूरत के समय पे उसको याद करेंगे तो आप लाइन में बहुत पीछे खड़े होंगे. That's what I feel. So if we have a daily ritual, the daily ritual could be diary writing, the daily ritual could be prayer, could be introspection. Okay. The daily ritual could be a conversation with God. But if we have a fixed time in a daily ritual, we actually feel stronger within ourselves. It's a very emotionally powerful tool. So let us have one ritual in a day where we connect to a higher power or where we dive deeper into ourselves. It could be a 5-minute meditation. It need not be a bigger thing than that. Okay. A very important point is setting up daily routines. So our daily routine has to involve an act of everything I have talked about. We have to have proper diet, physical exercise, proper sleep times. Okay. So I'm insisting that on a normal day, at a time when you get up, please on these days, in times of COVID, get up at the same time, even if there's a lockdown. Have a bath at the same time, at like how you dress up for college. Please wear good clothes. Don't walk around the house in t-shirt and pajamas. It'll instill a sense of purpose in you. Sit down on your laptop, sit down on a kursi table and not on your phones on the bed or a sofa. Okay. We have to have dedicated time for exercise. We have to have dedicated time for reading our text and also reading other than our text. We have to have a dedicated time where we decide to connect with friends. It is not a random throughout the day, but actually a decision that आज मैं इससे बात करता हूँ. Let me connect with one friend, one family today, and let me have a meaningful conversation rather than random chatting and random forwards. Okay. We have to have a dedicated time for prayer, meditation, etc. A dedicated time for appreciating somebody, for doing an act of kindness. It may be a small thing. So we have to have a daily routine in place. We can break that routine one day a week. So weekdays till Saturday, we work in one routine, and one day a week, okay, we get up late, like how we do in a normal college time. This also maintains a lot of sanctity. Just because it is lockdown doesn't mean that we sleep at 3 a.m. in the morning and wake up at 2 a.m., 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and then we laze around and we crib throughout the day, because this may be our life for the next 3 months. So we decide on the quality of life we have to have. This is a new problem of our generation, which is the smartphone addiction. Access to internet in India today is more than access to internet in US. Number of smartphone users. India probably has the highest number of smartphone users after China. Okay. Of course, our population is also more, but we have very high number of smartphone users. And somehow, phone is a machine, and the man has to be the master of the machine. It can't be the machine controlling us. While phone is an important necessity, we have to decide what we do on it. An important aspect is that we have to have switch off times. So my recommendation is that maybe 11 to 7 can be our switch off time, 11 at night to 7 in the morning. We can completely switch off our phones. There is no need to continuously be on phone. We discover other aspects of life other than phone. It will enrich ourselves a lot more. Okay, we have to manage our times that we spend on the phone, because excessive spending on time on the phone is known to reduce focus, concentration, memory. It also enhances impulsivity. Impulsivity is when we do things without thinking, without saying. You know how in a video game, with you keep shooting one after the other. Similarly, you may actually lash out on people without thinking what you are doing, because it enhances impulsivity. The end of the day, the last part of the day, is meant for honest introspection. So it could be a diary writing, it could be, like I said, a conversation with yourself or with God or whatever. But honest introspection is like seeing the mirror. It is not like venting out, ये हुआ मेरे साथ, ये हुआ, उसने ऐसा बोला, मुझे ऐसा लगा. It's not like that. It is more like, आज मैंने ये किया, I could have improved myself here. This I think I handled quite well. So we have to give ourselves a pat on the back also sometimes, that this was a difficult situation. My parents had an argument, and see how well I handled it. And whereas sometimes we need to say, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been so irritated. And next time I'll keep this in mind that I would not react like this. So, an honest introspection, because here we don't have a marking system. There are no grades here. Nobody is saying that you've crossed this level and you are on the next level. We are the ones who are marking ourselves. And these marks are important because we tell ourselves that, okay, this is how we need to improve ourselves. Okay. And remember, feeling better is not getting better. We may feel great sleeping, we may feel great partying or having drinks or drugs, but we don't get anywhere in life. So, the actual resilience to any kind of stress comes with dedicated effort at getting better. All right. You have, if you want to be whatever professionals that you're studying for, you are spending close to 12 hours a day. You are studying, you are attending college, you're talking to friends about these things. For how many years? For 20 years to achieve a professional level in life. We are talking about our own life, our emotional growth, our spiritual growth. You think it's going to happen without any effort on our side? Okay, so a consistent, dedicated effort is required. With that, I call off. Thank you and stay safe. And I think we can be open to.
Yeah, ma'am, thank you so much for this. You gave wonderful explanation of stress, and I am quite sure we will understand our mental health better now. And your tips are really very pertinent. And all the participants, I know they are also benefited from your insightful lecture. And the chat box is a witness to that. So, ma'am, we will just take one or two, question. Mostly these are coming from females, like since we are locked up at home and we have so much work to do, there is a pressure for work from home as well as we are working for home. Okay, since cleaning, cooking, everything is our responsibility, so our work pressure has increased manifold. So how do we deal with that stress? How do we cope with that?
So one of the things is that if we can be together in doing that, okay? So let us say you are cooking, maybe your husband can cut vegetables while you're cooking, okay? Maybe children can lay the table. So if we are together in doing work and we're also listening to music, so that the entire activity can be created as a fun activity. What I realized recently with working with the family is when two, three people do a task together, the task is less than half. I don't know what's the maths, but here 1 plus 1 is definitely more than 2. It is probably close to 11. एक और एक 11 होते हैं, वो समझ आया. Because when two people get together doing a thing, it just feels so effortless. Rather than one person alone doing this thing and then shouting at the other person कि तुम्हारा काम था कमरा साफ करना, तुमने किया नहीं, मैंने तो कपड़े धो लिए. So I think that is very important, where we are together and this becomes a family bonding time. We can laugh around, and it's also what I want to emphasize is that times of stress cannot be times of high performance. Okay, we have to accept if the house is not perfectly clean. We have to accept if we are not being able to make dal, roti, sabzi, paratha, salad, dal, dahi. Okay, we can make do with something milder than that. So some of us who have been perfectionists are also being very hard on ourselves and our families, that we have to still maintain normalcy. It's okay. This is not a normal time. And it's okay to, sort of fizzle out on that, but not at the cost of peace of mind.
Yeah. True.
A clean house versus peace of mind. What do you want?
True, ma'am. So we have to compromise on that perfectionist attitude in us. And ma'am, one last question I'll take. This is is there any difference between depression and breakdown? Like, is it different?
So breakdown is a common term which is being used for a lot of things. Like it can be used for an anxiety attack, it can be used for an anger episode, a rage episode, and also for people who break down crying. Depression is a more chronic problem where a person, in spite of wanting to get better, in spite of taking effort, is not able to move out of a very, very negative mood state. And that mood state starts affecting their physical health, starts affecting their relationships, starts affecting their performance in studies, etc. So depression is actually a chemical problem in the brain. It's a disease that requires treatment and addressing, and should not be something that should be brushed under the carpet. And people should not keep saying, "Hey, become a stronger person." So it's almost like telling an asthmatic, "कि इतना हवा है, तुम्हें सांस क्यों नहीं आ रहा है?" So when we give a lot of gyan to depression, sometimes it doesn't work. We have to say, okay, now it's getting a problem. Maybe you require help.
So depression is a clinical condition.
It's
Actually.
a clinical condition, yes.
Thank you so much. Now I am going to invite our Vice Principal, Sachin Kambli sir, to propose vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Rakhi madam. Good evening to all. I'm privileged to have the opportunity to offer the vote of thanks to this informative session on Mind Your Mind in COVID-19 times. I wish to express my heartfelt gratitude to our session guest and speaker, Dr. Kiran Sandelia, to share valuable knowledge and guide us through such an educative session. I'm sure your deep insight to human psychology has helped our students and participants to understand their behavior in this pandemic. We need to be mindful of our thoughts and consciously cultivate positive thinking to stay healthy and build stronger immune system. I take this opportunity to thank our principal, Dr. Mrs. Chaitali Chakrabarti, for her immense support. I would like to thank IQC coordinator, dean, organizer of this webinar, and all participants to make this event successful. A special thank to the management of Tagore College of Science and Commerce for overall support. Thank you all for sparing your valuable time and attending this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. So,
Rakhi ma'am, we'll come to the end.
yes,
Yeah?
we have come to the end. So, Teresa,
Yeah.
I think we can close the meeting.
Teresa, are you there?